Chapter 10, High Society. 10,000 years ago, a cacophony of societies, Indian, Chinese, American, Indonesian, Scandinavian, European, and more, emerged from different tribes around the world. Each society started small, with each generation copying what its parents did, but with variations. Copying with variations. It works for the evolution of animals. It works for the evolution of societies. Eventually, they each had their own special styles in language, laws, clothing, art, building, and music. Also, the ceremonies for birth, marriage, and death, deep things that they used to think were handed down to them from gods, part of their DNA, if you like. They believed there was no other way to speak, dress, or behave except with their particular language, clothes, and customs, until they discovered other societies with their different ways of doing the same things. When this first began to happen, they would think those foreign societies were wrong, inferior, ignorant, even stupid. Now we understand that they are just different. We've all been through the same problem of survival on the same planet over the same few thousand years. We've just come out through different doors. Societies can spread outwards across the land, only stopping where they reach dangerous seas, difficult mountains, or the next door society. When a society becomes large, it may call itself a nation. How do nations happen? In the past, nations often formed because everyone in the area had to solve a super problem. For instance, Egypt 8,000 years ago had a big, wet super problem, how to control the river Nile, which flowed right through the land from the mountains in the south to the sea 800 kilometers in the north. Between June and October, the river would fill with water from the snow melting in the mountains in the south. Further down the valley to the north, it overflowed its banks and covered the fields with water and fresh, rich soil. Here the farmers grew their crops, harvesting and storing them to be eaten over the next year through the dry season until the rivers brought more soil. Sometimes the waters were low, so the farmers high up the river channeled what they could into their lands, and the farmers downstream got none. This made them hungry. They marched up the river to ask politely for some water from the selfish farmers upstream. The selfish farmers upstream said courteously that they were not selfish, they were lucky, and asked if the crowd would kindly get off their land. The unlucky farmers pointed to the river and said respectfully it was their river. The lucky farmers said patiently the river was on their land, so it was theirs. The unlucky farmers graciously allowed the lucky farmers to claim the riverbed and banks, which was on their land, but not the river which was clearly travelling through on its way down to their land downstream. The river said it belonged to everyone, but nobody heard it because by now they'd all started fighting. So the problem came with the territory. To avoid the fighting and shouting, the people learned to talk and discuss, to share their thoughts and feelings, and in the end, to share the water. Jaw is better than war. They also shared their language, their customs, in a word, their societies merged together to form a national identity, usually adding a national flag, national anthem, and central government. Caring and sharing is what created the great nations of history. Are you nearly here yet? You live in a family, in a house, in a town, in a society which calls itself a nation. Your mission? To keep society ticking over. And look, everyone has already made a splendid civilized society so far, with teachers and doctors, family and friends to teach you how things work. Be careful, though. Our society keeps changing. As new inventions appear in our homes and streets, new teachers change our lessons, new politicians change our freedoms, new words change our language, new fashions change the way we dress, dance, and eat. A few problems here and there. But as soon as you and your friends get together and form that super brain we've heard about, you'll get it all sorted.